It's not gonna be that easy. Well, I knew that much, that he's gonna try that.
そうだもこいつはキラの正体を知ってしまった唯一の人間長く生かしておくわけにはいかない
あなたの死神もミサに見せて
信用させるのに必要かあ、わかった
He has to do these kind of things. Didn't I mention this in my discussion?
どうも死神といってもレムとは全然違うタイプねあ、そうそうライト知ってる死神が死ぬ方法
Wow, straight to the point, huh?
もうライトって呼び捨てか
じゃあライトじゃなくってナイトって
ナイト
ミサにとっては白馬の騎士だもの
ライトでいいよ茂木さんにライト君の行動を監視してもら
Ooh, okay, this is how
ライトの行動を
万一ライト君がキラだった場合
they're gonna spot.
第二のキラが何らかの形で接触してくるかもしれません
わかった。
じゃあ特定の人間に好意を持ちその人間の寿命を伸ばす目的で他の人間を殺すと死神は死ぬってことか
そんなことをする死神がいるとは思えないけど。
I can think of one.
そうだな少なくともリュウクは絶対なさそうだしかし私はキラと共に世の中の悪を消していき
Ah, okay, this is
キラに
smart.
協力して認めてもらいますこの力を与えるにふさわしい人間にはどんどん力を分け世の中を良くしていきたいと思います
力
Ooh,
を分ける
操作を混乱させるための一文だすでに
right?
二人も力を持った者がいるんだ何人になっても不思議ではないし、
Mmm.
増えていくと考えれば焦りも生じる
Okay.
ではこっちの条件
Oh.
デートは最低でも週1回
やっぱり分かってないこいつ無理だよなんで言っておかないと分かってもらえそうにないなエルはすでに僕のことをキラではないかと疑っている
ライトがミサをエルのところに連れて行ってくれればいいだけね
It's not that
そ
easy.
んな簡単にはいかないよエルに自分から近づくのは僕だけでも難しかったこれから急に僕に近づく者が現れ社会に対するキラと第二のキラの態度に変化があれば、その者が第二のキラである疑い僕がキラである疑いをより深めることになりうる
But he has a tail now, a shadow.
親密な関係になったと思われるのはまずいまずは君の存在をエルに知られずに君がエルを見る策をじっくり考えるべきエルを消すには君が必要だ君とはなるべく直接会って連絡していきたい他の女の子ともたくさん会うようにする
Oh.
何それ他の女の子ともデートする
まあそういうことに
Yeah.
そんなの見たらその子殺しちゃうよ
おえ
なあミサちゃん
Misa-chan.
遊びじゃないんだ
ミサは世の中よりライトが好き
Wow.
何言ってるんだそれにこうして話すのも初めてなのに
Yeah, but
一
light.
目惚れってしたことない
ないよ
ミサがキラに会いたかったのは確かに感謝と共感で愛じゃなかったけどライトを一目見た時から
Right, then she saw Light Yagami.
なんなんだこの女は
でも他の女の子とデートするのは許せないそれとこれとは別の話でしょ
従えないなら僕は君を殺す
そうはさせないよ。
Yes, Rem, go on.
もしこの娘を殺すようなことをすれば、私が私のノートにお前の名前を。
Yep, she's protective.
お前を殺す。
その子を助けるためにノートを使えばお前が死ぬんじゃなかったのか
そうよそれじゃレムが死んじゃう
Clearly, she doesn't care.
確かにそうだ。だが私はそれでも構わない。
何なんだこの死神あの女を殺したら僕を殺すだと
Though now
あい
it's
つが死ぬまでうまく付き合い続けなければならないのかそれどころか警察に捕まらないように
right.
彼女の一生を見守ることも強いられる死神を殺すには
Ah,
その
I,
死神が好意を持つ人間を
he's going to use that, isn't
デ
he?
スノートを使わせることミサが危険な目に遭えば真っ先に僕が疑われ僕が殺される
He'll think of something.
こうなると現時点でエルよりも厄介な存在だミサちゃんのことは父さんにはまだ黙っておいてくれる
Hmm.
はいはい
Ah.
それと父さんだけじゃなく誰にも言わないでほしいんだ
キラに名乗り出るのはやめます。警察の方、 ご忠告ありがとうございました。しかし、私はキラに協力し、世の中の悪を
That makes things interesting, doesn't it? Not knowing.
まずは、キラがまだ裁けていない犯罪者を裁きます。
私はこれを見て、キラと第二のキラがつながってしまったと感じました。
なぜつながったと
感じませんでしたか？ライト君なら私と同じ印象を受けると思っていたんですが。
Get that sugar rush.
あれだけキラに会うことにこだわっていた態度が一変したこと、これを今までなぜやらなかったか。それはそこまで考えが及んでいなかったから。おそらくキラとつながりを持ち、裁けということです。
As expected of L.
そしてキラはつながりを持ったことは隠せと命じた。
それだとキラも大して考えずに行動しているな。
はい。考えが回らないほどの事情でもあったか。
お
ことをわざと分かるようにし、こっちの動揺を誘ったかでしょうね。実際このつながりは脅威です。もう一度得る。私をテレビ出演させる脅迫をさせると思うんです。つながりができてないとしている以上、第二のキラの責任になりますし。
龍崎が L であるのなら、僕は L の性格を知っている。L はどんな脅迫をされようとテレビに出たりはしない。人の身代わりになる気などはさらさらない。何か逃れる手段を必ず考える。
バレてましたか？
に、もし僕がキラならなんて話せるのは僕がキラじゃないからだよ。
そうですね。ライト君はキラじゃない。いや、ライト君がキラでは困ります。ライト君は私の初めての友達ですから。
Oh.
ああ、
Music again.
僕にとっても龍崎は気が合う友達だ。大学休学されて寂しいよ。またテニスしたいね。
はい、ぜひ。
龍崎のやつ、あっさりとキラと第二のキラのつながりに感づいてい
Alright.
る。やはりできるだけ早く消さなければ。
あ、そう。
これではますますミサに会うことは危険だ。
どうして2週間待てなくて。今ライトのうちに行こうとしてただろ。
Yikes.
おう、女を殴りたいと本気で思ったのは生まれて初めてだ。
どうしても会い
Oh,
たく
she
て。
made a scene.
まあ、うちに来いよ。
Ah.
レム、
Rem.
お前ミサの味方してるよな。
ああ、この子のことは死神界から何度か見ていたし、ある事情があって少し情が移った。
Ah.
死神のくせに情か。
この子を殺そうとしたら、お前を殺すと言ったのが気に入らないようだな。この子の不幸は見たくない。
ミサはこんなに僕を好きでいる。
ライト。
ミサ、僕の幸せは君の幸せになるか？レムに頼んでくれるか？エルを殺せって。
Oh.
どちらかがエルに捕まりでもすれば二人の幸せは脅かされる。
確かに死神は人間に人の名前を教えてはいけないが、レムが誰かを殺そうと制約はないもんな。
僕はよりミサを愛しく思うし、レムにも感謝する。何より二人が幸せになれる。
レム、ライトに愛されたい。ライトも私も喜ぶし、それが私の幸せ。
I think she'll do it for Misa.
いいだろう。いいだろう、八神ライト。私はお前が嫌いだ。
Yeah.
お前
That's
の治療の
that's clear.
になっても私は死なない。エルを殺してやるよ。エルなんて私にとってはどうでもいい。
Look at that.
エルが死ぬ。こんな簡単に。
No, can't be that easy. Right then, as expected, Misa and Kira meeting up has escalated the situation quite a bit, and this is not looking good for L or the task force. Yeah, I mean, Rem agreed to kill L, right? Now, this is because Misa made the request, right, on Light's behalf. And, in that sense, it's a clever chance Light took here because he wasn't even sure if it's going to play out, right? He actually gave up on it until Rem came in and said, fine, I'll do it. If it makes Misa happy, yes, I'll do it. Because that's the only thing that matters to Rem, right? Misa and her being happy and her being safe. The human L means nothing to Rem, right? And the human Light Yagami means nothing to Rem. So, if it makes Misa happy, she doesn't care. She'll kill L. And killing L is not going to affect Rem either, right? Because, again, none of these humans mean anything to her. So yeah, this is quite a problem for L. Because this is the one unknown. This is the thing he cannot counter. He has no counter to this because he doesn't even know about it, right? In that sense, his reaction to hearing Shinigami on that Kira tape or Misa's tape, and that reaction to it, that really out of character reaction, makes more sense now, doesn't it? Because that is an unknown, Shinigami. That's out of his control. And you see how things that are unknown to him kind of make him uneasy, so much so that it made him react in that manner. So yeah. If Rem plans on doing this, L can't stop it. But that being said, it's episode 14 of the series, of the story. It simply cannot happen. You cannot kill L off so early. It's a 37 episode series. You cannot kill him off this early on in the story, right? So, as inevitable as it might seem, surely there's going to be some kind of disruption to the flow, right? Something needs to happen, and I'm going to go ahead and assume something is going to happen that might disrupt this flow. That seems inevitable at this point. Now, as already established in these last few episodes, Rem is quite protective of Misa, right? That's the feeling I got instantly after seeing Rem. And of course, they explain that backstory. She's clearly still taking inspiration, or she took inspiration from the actions of that incredible Shinigami, right? The unthinkable actions, yet also the amazing actions of the Shinigami Jealous or Jealous. And she's continued on that path, right? And she's made sure that Misa stays safe and out of any sort of danger, right? So, the introduction of Rem has really been one of the more exciting introductions of a character into this story. Last time I was this excited was Naomi's introduction, because it was some sort of resistance to light, right? And this is a Shinigami, and this Shinigami does not like Light Yagami. She made it clear. Now, that being said, there is one opening that he could do at some point, or he could make use of, right? If he wants to take out Rem. I mean, it's a tall order, but he is brilliant. He is a genius. The chink in the armor being how to kill a Shinigami, right? This is certainly going to come into play at some point. This concept, because this is a few episodes in a row now, or twice now they've made a big deal about this. And Misa instantly just spilled the beans the moment Ryuk was shown to her. The moment Light showed her Ryuk, she's like, oh, do you know how to kill Shinigami? And then of course they get Light to repeat the whole thing for the audience again. Though again, it's a tiny opening, but it is perhaps a chink in the armor, because Rem straight up admitted that she doesn't care if she dies, right? That she's ready to give up her remaining years in order to save Misa from any sort of danger or in revenge, right? Meaning it's possible, right? If it comes to that, is it possible that Light could set up a situation that requires, or that could require Rem to, give up her life, essentially, to save Misa, Because other than that, I don't know how he could possibly deal with Rem. But again, that's the thing though. She said if Misa dies before her intended, lifespan or, her date of death, she's just going to assume it was Light, right? So it's going to need something quite clever, right? Getting Misa into a situation that might require Rem to step in and save her, right? By giving up her life so Misa doesn't die. So if Light wants to take out Rem, he's going to have to think of something, at some point. But also, this episode picked up right at the conclusion of the last episode, and it solidified his intentions with Misa, right? If it wasn't already clear enough. I mean, I feel like that look and that tight shot of Light's face, his evil face, right? They use it every now and then, but I feel like that was more than enough to give us his intentions. But if anyone missed that, right? This made it crystal clear, right? It solidified it, set it in stone. That first of all, he intends to use Misa and her Shinigami eyes, and somehow get her to meet L, and then get her to kill L, right? And then he plans on killing her or getting rid of her because she does present a threat to his anonymity as Kira, right? A loose end. But again, there's this other problem that came out of this. Rem, right? He in the beginning of the episode, he felt so sure of all of this, but then Rem stepped in. That kind of threw a bit of a wrench in his plans, didn't it? Right now, there's this looming threat of a Shinigami above his head, so he has to act accordingly. Now, going back to Misa, she's certainly a loose cannon, right? A liability for Light, for Kira. And for someone like Light, who likes to be in absolute control at all times, this has to make him uneasy. Because even though she made it seem like, yes, I'll do everything you tell me to do, she still acts out on her own feelings, doesn't she? Light told her not to make any sort of contact or connection for a specified amount of time, right? But she said, no, I couldn't do that. And she kind of surprised him, bamboozled him in that street, right, in his near his house. So he couldn't control her. She didn't listen. She does act out on her own. And of course, earlier on, she got quite angry at the notion of him saying that he's going to see other people, other potential partners, right, to make sure this isn't suspicious. And, she got angry about that. So yeah, she is a bit of a loose cannon. In that sense, the shadow or the new tail L has on Light now, he saw this. He saw Misa jump him, right? And then he saw Misa and Light go to Light's house. And he's going to report this, right, to L. And also, they showed us in this episode that Misa, or, they showed us a few episodes ago, but they once again reminded us that Misa is someone famous, right? She is a model. So once L looks into this, or once even the shadow looks into this, it's not going to be long before they find out who she is. And of course, Light doesn't want this to get out. He doesn't want his father to find out either, because he is part of the task force, right? Now, I think at this point, given that there is a tail on him, it is inevitable that L is going to find out about Misa and, her being this famous model. Because again, the tail is going to tell him. And it doesn't look like Ryuk is going to tip him off anymore, right? The last time Ray Pember, he tipped him off about Ray being this tail, this shadow on him. Nothing of that sort this time, right? And even before, Light doesn't know at this point that he's being tailed again, but inside that lecture, right, you see that he's purposely being disruptive and speaking really loudly, right? So much so that you see the other students kind of get annoyed, and you see a reaction out of them. That's certainly by design, right? He's trying to make it clear that he's talking to this Miss Toho, right? Miss Toho University. He wants it to be out there that, yeah, he is speaking with others. Now, going back to Light telling Misa that, he has to see other people. even that, even that's kind of suspicious. If he all of a sudden starts seeing like 4 or 5 different people, right? All of a sudden he starts hanging out with a lot of different girls, right? Even that is suspicious, and it goes back to that tennis match scene, right? One of the best scenes of the series, because that established that these two are at a level that requires them to, anticipate 3 to 4 moves ahead, right? Anticipate the reaction of a potential move, and then think of a counter to that move or a reaction to that move, right? So in that sense, even that is going to be suspicious to L, right? Even if Light, did or does end up taking that route. And again, like I just mentioned, he is making it clear that he is talking to others, right? He made a bit of a scene actually in that lecture hall. And speaking of L, almost instantly, right, he figured out that, yeah, Kira and new Kira or second Kira are now teamed up, or they have met and they have talked. Now, I felt like this is clear in the last episode, right? There's that inner monologue of him, theorizing or having a good idea that Light might have met second Kira, right, on that outing, that sting operation, him and Matsuda. So yeah, at this point he made it even clear to Light that, yeah, it's clear that they've met up. And you see Light's reaction to this. He was quite annoyed that L put it together so quickly. Now, everything L does is a calculated step. That's how I look at it. That's how I've been looking at it from the beginning, since his introduction, right? But, he kind of changed things up here, right? He kind of dropped a bit of a bombshell almost, a bit of a game changer. And he said that I consider you my first friend, right? Now, my immediate reaction to that is that it's a test, right? He's testing Light to see his reaction to this, how he might react to hearing something like this, right? Or, the first thing he says to this, or in reply to this. For a split moment, you see that look in Light's face, right? He is caught off guard by this. Now, yes, I do think that L just made a calculated move by saying that to him, but in the sense, if you look beyond that, if you look at it from a different angle, you could see that, yeah, like I mentioned a few episodes ago, I believe I mentioned in my discussion for the episode, L comes out to Light and tells him straight up, I'm L, right? In the discussion for that, I said, these two are so unique in the sense that they kind of even get each other, right? There's a possibility that they'll find things about each other that impress them, right? That in another situation, perhaps in another life, they could have been friends, right? Because they are so unique and they do find themselves so detached from others, perhaps, given their intellect, their genius. So, having someone to bounce off like this, you can understand how they, again, in another life, right, in another situation, they could have been great friends, right? The best of friends, perhaps. But they happen to be on the opposite ends of the scale in this situation, right? And, in that sense, Light's upbringing, you have to kind of go back to that. Even though they haven't really shown me much about his past or his upbringing, he is different, right? He's so different than everyone else around him, his family. And, they established in episode 1 that he might not be challenged enough, right? He was bored because, again, he's on a different level than everyone else. He cannot connect with most people, pretty much everyone, right? Now there's someone like L who is quite impressive, right? And like I said, even though they are enemies, there are qualities that they find impressive about each other. But yeah, you can see how L could, consider someone like Light a friend. Again, in a different situation, perhaps, right? A different life, under different circumstances. Because he also, much like Light, he also might have felt like he wasn't being challenged or he cannot connect with normal people, right? So I do like that scene, even though my immediate thought on that scene is that yes, he is just kind of putting that out there to see Light's reaction. Now, even though in scenes of him speaking with the task force or Chief Yagami, every now and then he'll make it seem like, yeah, Light might be off the hook. Maybe he's not the prime suspect anymore. He does that thing, but I don't believe it. I feel like from really early on, I think he's known that Kira is Light, Yagami, but he wants to prove it, right? He wants to make it beyond a shadow of a doubt that Light Yagami is Kira. So that's how I look at it. That at all times he does think Light Yagami is Kira, right? And slowly he plans on making it clear, right? And having undeniable proof on this. I don't believe it anytime he goes on about, maybe my suspicion of Light is kind of going cold. I don't buy that. I feel like he's just putting that up for Chief Yagami or the rest of the task force, and even Light. The infamous cackle. Ryuk's infamous cackle is present throughout this episode, more so than usual, right? Because he really does enjoy Light. And he kind of clocks Light's motives and his plans or his steps instantly, right? The moment he'll say something or he'll put something into motion, you see Ryuk's instant reaction and, of course, the cackle. So he's enjoying it quite a bit. But, as much as I've enjoyed Ryuk the Shinigami, this introduction of Rem the Shinigami, now that really makes the Shinigami much more interesting. It actually does a fantastic job of bringing the Shinigami into the narrative, right? Because she's a big deal now. She's a big part of this now, right? She's this looming presence over Light Yagami, over Kira. And I feel like she is going to play a major part in the rest of the story. Because I certainly, they made it clear she does not like Light. And, in my discussion for the last episode, I said, she clearly knows of his intentions, that he doesn't have good intentions for Misa, and that she might, voice those opinions to Misa at some point. But of course, Misa's, she's going to defend Light. But still, I really love this introduction of Rem the Shinigami. Like I said, she's out of Misa and Rem being these new characters coming into it, I felt that Rem was the most interesting of the two. But even Misa, it's this fantastic, chaotic new presence. Things were getting a bit too easy for Light. Now you have this unknown or this thing that's kind of almost out of his control, right? This liability. So it certainly shakes things up, introducing Misa to the story, right? Or into Light's life. And once again, going back to Ryuk, there was that one shot of him, the tight pull-in shot of Ryuk as he hears Rem say that, yeah, she'll kill L for him. So, it's an interesting dynamic here. Ryuk seeing this other Shinigami behave in this manner, right? He's surprised to see this. That, this Shinigami has feelings, right? For a human, right? Again, I feel like these feelings are more so of a mother, protective mother figure type feelings, but it is love, right? And then before I sign off, that mid-episode card, it was going into suicide, right? And how it's not really an unbelievable act because all humans do possess the capacity or capability to take that action, right? So that reminded me of Naomi again. But it is interesting that they're bringing that up after Naomi has passed on. Right then, I think that might be it. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like. Consider dropping some comments. Give me your thoughts. And if you're interested in early access to the next episode right now, or perhaps even full length to this episode, consider checking out the Patreon page. And the link to the Patreon page is in the pinned comment alongside social media. So, consider checking out the different links or listings on the Patreon page if that's your thing. It's an option. But yeah, that's about it for this one. I noticed that maybe I was a bit quiet throughout the episode, but again, this is meant to be an actual reaction to something. So sometimes there's a lot of listening and reading, right? and taking in that information. Right then, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. Take it easy.